All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Happy Monday. How's it going, Jen?
Great.
It's cold this morning.
Stupid cold. It's mean cold. That's the thing.
It was like -10 or whatever this morning, getting the kids off to school, which you walked them out to the bus stop, so good on you.
Yeah, I was like, maybe my hair could be frozen, but I don't think it is, so good. It's defrosted.
Today we're talking about, we're starting our first wave of one-on-one, well, it's not really one-on-one, it's like 2-on-1 meetings with our staff because there's 2 of us and we like to do them together.
Yes.
In your situation, it might be a one-on-one meeting. So that's what I wanted to talk about today because I think it's a weird topic. So for one, I don't like meetings. I think that meetings are often unnecessary. It could be like an email or a text. I don't think in the past I've had very good leadership in regard to meetings. So I've always gone into meetings and got, you get the stupid compliment sandwiches and stuff like that. Like that stuff's so easy to see through. And then most recently I was talking to some of our staff, or we were at work, and they were like nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to clear things up and go over, not necessarily for them, but if we're having these thoughts, then everyone out there is too, right? Before we get there, we're going to start with the opening take.
Okay.
So what do you got?
Why don't you go first?
All right, I will. Mine's quick though, so think fast. Last week, was it? Or over the weekend or whenever it was, TikTok got shut down for a few hours. And I think a lot of people collectively lost their freaking minds. There was reports of like people calling 911, which is just absurd. That's just like probably kids being dumbasses. But a lot of the argument was that people make a living on TikTok and that people advertise on TikTok and all these things. And I thought, same thing I always think, you don't own that. So you don't really have total control of your marketing. If that's your marketing strategy, I think it's great as part of a marketing strategy. We have a TikTok. I don't run it. I don't even know if it's active. I don't care. If that's part of your strategy, I think that's great. If that's your whole strategy, if it gets shut down or disappears or who knows what happens, companies get sold, things change. I've checked out different social media platforms before that just close, they disappear. A better way to do it would be something like an email list, because you own an email list and you can continue to market to those people. And I know people will say email's dated or whatever, or you're old if you use email. Okay, but I can still get in touch with my clients and you can't. Maybe you should say I'm smart instead of old. I don't know.
Well, you're kind of old, but you're smart too.
Hey. No, if I don't mind social media. It's fine. It's a great platform for, you can build an audience. You can market your products, your services, whatever, for free. It's amazing. And a lot of people find a lot of value in it. And there are some people that make money from it. What I would do, though, is urge your audience to give you their emails. Just collect emails. And that way, if something happens, you still have a way to contact
It's
them.
a backup
What if you
plan.
moved over? Yeah. What if you moved over to a new platform? If your platform disappears, say you're on Instagram and you move over to YouTube, how are people going to find you? They're just going to automatically know that you're over there. I mean, maybe some of them will search, but people want frictionless. People don't really want to go way out of their way to like have access to you. I know people think that, but there are so many yous out there. So protect you. That's my opening thought. I tried to drag it out so that you had time.
Thanks. Appreciate that one. My opening take is going to be a word. And my word, it's for myself, but I think if you're in any industry, if you think like me, you probably need this word, which is focus. It's a new year. A lot of people make New Year's resolutions. I'm not a New Year's resolution person. I think, Todd and I will talk about certain things we want to get done for the year, but I wouldn't necessarily, I'm not big on a new year, like new year, new you. I think before you know it, it gets old and you get depressed and you're like, I didn't hit anything. And it actually, I think, causes more harm than good. But I think for a word for focus is to focus on the things you want to get done, whether it's this year, this month, this week, this day. I don't care where it goes. And then check yourself. If it's a daily goal, at the end of the day, did you hit the goal? If it's a weekly, did you get there? If it's a monthly, same thing. And if you focus on those goals and you check in with yourself often, Then before you know it, those goals become checks, check, check, and you're making progress. I think a lot of people don't have focus and don't make progress, and they don't understand why. So this year, I'd say if you could focus on your goals and make sure you're daily or weekly checking in on them, and then before you know it, you'll see progress. It feels good. Reevaluate, make some new ones, and before you know it, at the end of the year, you're like, "Wow, I kicked ass this year," and be proud of yourself when you do that.
Nice. All right, let's get into these one-on-ones, evaluations, performance reviews, whatever. I'm sure people have all sorts of creative names because for some reason we love to rename stuff that already has names.
Yeah, I just call it a meeting.
Yeah, meeting. So I had already mentioned that I'm not really big on these. I like ours in the way that we've done them and sort of tweak them and are building them out. And this round to kick off 2025 will be even different, right? We've got a bunch of new stuff in there. Why do these matter? Why do people even need one-on-ones with people, with their staff?
You want me to go?
Sure, I guess. We're just having a
Yeah,
conversation.
I think they're extremely important for a few different reasons. One, you can think you have a pulse on your business and you know what's happening and all that, but if you are not meeting with people outside of like work hours or giving them some time just to sit with you and ask them what their goals are, not even maybe just business goals, but where do they see themselves in the future with maybe the business, but also personally. I think it gives
That's
a
a big one.
chance. What's that?
That's a really big one I think people might underestimate is having a pulse on what's going on.
Yeah, I think it gives people, especially if they're sitting down with you, and I guess it depends on what you bring to the table. We come in super chill. I like to we have things that we highlight, we have things that we have to talk about that need to be worked on, but it's a working conversation, it's a working meeting to get all for us, it's three of us, all three of us on a close to same page or same page. It's to hear what they think is going well in our business too. That's not always easy to hear because someone might tell you there's some things that aren't going well that you didn't realize, but we're looking for that reflection from them so that we can build a better business this year, that we can do better things. Maybe there's some things we need to change, or maybe there's some things we need to explain. Like they might think, oh, this isn't going well. Oh, well, it is, but let me explain to you why. There's so many points that can happen in this conversation if you go in. Todd and I have like a system. We understand what we're going to hit, but also with an open mind and with a mindset growth or a growth mindset to allow this meeting to kind of organically develop. So like I said, we'll drive part of it, but also we want to have a real conversation. We're not going in with all these answers like do this, this is what you have to do. We're going in with like, let's have a chat. And at the end of that chat, we'll all be better people and we'll all have a better year because we've sat down together honestly and figured out all the things that, like I said, are going well and maybe some stuff that needs to be worked on and whatever that looks like.
There's a whole lot of words for listen.
Yeah.
You listen to them, they listen to you.
Yeah. I think a lot of people go into
So,
meetings with basically like, as a leader, almost like a list of things that they feel like they need to say all this stuff that it makes
yeah,
them look like they're leading the meeting. And I think that is a not awesome approach. I think you go in with, you need some numbers and you need some things, don't get me wrong, but I think you go in exactly like you just said, like you listen with your ears open, not with answers that you think you have to go in and have already like prepared. I think a true leader goes in and they treat it like a conversation and are hoping to get out of it something to help themselves too, not just I'm going to tell you what you need to do to get here. Like, do you even know where they want to be? What if this is a year that someone's like, I have a lot going on and I'd like this first quarter to not be overly pushed. I think I'm at a breaking point. Or what if someone that's never wanted to be pushed comes in and is like, I'm ready to go. I want to do this. And if you've tried to prepare for what you think they're going to say, you're not going to know how to quickly answer and get them where they want to be. So if you just go in with an open mind as a conversation, and maybe you have to revisit some things, but go in and like listen and really truly want to come up with a plan for that person.
So you got a little ahead of where I was going to start. I was going to start on the foundations because I think that's often overlooked. And you brought up the KPIs, and we'll touch on that stuff. There's value there, but I think a lot of people will come in with exactly what you're saying, Jen, which is what do we need to fix? I need to build my business, money, money, money. And for me, it's do you know our mission statement? You
Right.
better. And you better learn it if you don't. And it's fine if you don't, but you better learn it. And how come you don't know it? Probably because I haven't done a good job to push it. And if you don't know my mission, then you're probably not aware of our core values, even though they're listed literally on the wall. But those like little things are important to me because I feel like people, especially newer people that come out of school, what I've noticed, and you can correct me if, I mean, it's an observation, so you can't really correct me, but you might see something different. But I see people that come out of school and they're like hair, 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 hair. They think they have it all figured out. They think like rush, rush, rush. And if you aren't connecting with your staff and having them understand the mission of your business, like why does your business even exist? What sort of clients are we looking for? What are we trying to accomplish? How do
Right.
we want to feel within our business? Those are the things I think that you can really highlight in a meeting, and that will drive your culture. You can stop using all the buzzwords. You can stop being like, we're a family here. Like you shouldn't be, this is a bad example because you do it, but you shouldn't be telling everybody that you love them. That's a weird thing. You tell everybody that you love them, so it's different for you, but
Mm.
I don't go around telling the staff that I love them. We're not family. Like it's you're when you do that sort of stuff, you make it weird. It's a business. It should be run as a
You're telling me
business.
I'm weird?
No, because
I'm just kidding. I don't do it in the way. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
you don't do it. Yeah, you don't do it in a way that's like we're all family and we're so close and I'm
No.
your salon mom. Like that's just weird to
Right.
me. And so, and again, if that's what works for you, go for it. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. I'm just giving my opinions and what I've seen work and what I've seen not work. People break up with family.
Right.
People get divorces. People have relationships with siblings, like falling outs where they don't speak. Like,
Right.
do you want that? Because
I
that's
would
like you're asking for that.
I would question if you're leading a business of like trying to be family or be everybody's best friend, why are you doing that and what's missing that you're trying to create? And it doesn't have to be this lovey-dovey situation. If your culture is not great, you need to figure out why. And by being everyone's best friend or they're like, that's not actually going to fix your problem. There's a problem there that you're trying to take on yourself, and you can't lead by yourself. So that would mean you need to have some one-on-ones and some meetings to figure out why the culture isn't where you want it to be and how to create that.
Yeah. And for me, like I said, it all starts with your mission and your vision and your
Mhm.
core values. If you don't have those things, then what is your staff working on? If they
Right.
don't understand how you feel and how you make decisions, then it's like if you give somebody we call it a playbook. If you give somebody your staff handbook or employee handbook or whatever, and you don't ever check in, like if they have questions or you don't make sure that they read it, how are they going to know what's expected of them? If you go into an evaluation with somebody and you're like, hey, you fell short on your haircutting this year, but that's the first time they're hearing of it, that's on you. Like, that's a big thing. So I like to start with the mission stuff and just make sure that people understand that we mean what we say because Jen and I are extremely, I think you said we're relaxed or chill with these
Mhm.
meetings. We are, but we have an
Oh,
expectation
yeah.
and we demand that it's met because
Yeah.
we know what we bring to the table. We know that if you want to hit certain marks, if you want to buy your first house, if you want to get a car, like we know we can help you with those things. So, and we don't take it lightly because there's a list of people that want to come work with us. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying like somebody's more valuable than somebody else, but if you're not going to put the effort into what we're saying and buy into
Mm.
our vision for our business, then I'll pick somebody else. I don't think it means anybody's a bad person or anything like
Right.
that. But if you want your business to thrive, especially when you're not around, you're going to need to build a solid team. And this is a way that you can do that.
Mhm.
The first thing, though, I would say to do is your preparation. So I would be prepared. We have a list. We probably have stuff we won't get to in these meetings. And so yesterday I started going through and reorganizing things. And it's like, what do we want to hit on first? Where do we want to start? Blah, blah, blah. So you're going to need obviously all your metrics. So if you're a KPI person out there and you're like, we need our retail, sales, and retention and technical skills, and we're rating you 1 through 5 and whatever, that's all great. Have that stuff ahead of time. I've done meetings before where people ask me for stuff and I'm like, I don't have that, but I can find it. And so we'll quickly pull it up. But if you need to spend more than, I would say, 20 seconds, 30 seconds searching for something, it needs to go away
Mhm.
and you got to come back
Revisit.
because your time is valuable and it shouldn't be wasted just searching stuff. One of the other things I would do too is sort of make mental notes on or physical notes on the vibe that you're picking up. Like, how are your team interacting with each other before these meetings? You don't want to go into it and have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to have times where you get blindsided by stuff
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, I had no clue that was going on. Okay, let's fix that.
Right.
But for the most part, you should have a kind of pulse on,
Yeah.
for the most part, your business. Like, things are going well, maybe not perfect. We always say, like, I don't even care if our staff gets along. They just need to be professional.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want arguing, fighting, rude comments. Nothing like that will be tolerated. But
Respect,
yeah,
professional.
respect is, you don't have to be best friends. You don't have to hang out outside of work. Like I said, this isn't family.
Yep.
And we have a lot of people that do. We have people that hang out, and that's totally fine too. What do we want to get into next? So we always like to kick off our meeting with, I stole this from a past mentor, but we call it bright spots.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I think it just sets the tone for the meeting, and it allows you to have the person that you're meeting with give you what they think is going well.
Mm-hmm.
So it puts them in a mindset that this is a positive thing. This is not a negative thing. We're not here to get in trouble. We're not here to be scolded. This is a good thing. I'm going to share some good stuff.
Right.
And
Well, and I think this is really important if you didn't hear it the way you said it, because it's easy to think, oh, we start with a bright spot. We don't start with the bright spot. We have them start with the bright spot, right?
yes,
They're the star of the show. We need to know where they think they are. Where have they arrived in this meeting? So if we don't let them set the tone or start with where they think they are, and we come in way up here, there's a gap. Like it's not even going to meet. So their bright spot really showcases to Todd and I where they feel they are. And it's very, very important to listen and let them lead that part and then go in with where you need to be, because you might think, everything's here and they, again, you just don't know, but let them lead with their bright spot. And again, I think we see it all the time. People get lost in like, it's about me, me, me. This meeting's not really about Todd and I. It's about whoever we're meeting with and building them up, which builds the business. So it starts with them.
yeah, ultimately what we're doing is trying to get our foundations across, reiterate why we're here, and then figure out how we can support our staff.
Yep.
That's really what we're after.
Yes.
People get stressed out, so we have to figure out a way to make it a positive experience, or they'll, one, never want to do it again, or two, have freaking panic attacks, which is not what we're
We've
trying
had
to
people
do.
sit like a lot of times people have, like you said, bad past with meetings and they've sat down and they just start crying and you look at them and like, I don't even know why I'm crying. I'm just nervous. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. You don't have to be nervous. There's some
Nothing.
people coming into them this year that are new with us. They're like, I might cry. And I'm like, it's happened before. And they don't even know why. They're just nervous. And I think also you have to realize they're looking at their bosses. Like that's who you are. And they look up to you and they want good feedback, but they also realize there's going to be some constructive criticism that's not always easy to take. So the anxiety part is high, and how you deliver that is extremely important.
Where I would go next with that stuff is what you think is important in your business. So, because you want to make sure that you hit that stuff and you get that stuff out of the way. So, I would always start with a bright spot. I would always start with, what do you feel is going well? Give me something. It can't be everything. Don't say that. It's so generic. So, I would push them a little bit. Like, what do you feel like have been some recent successes? Where have you seen growth this year? If people need prompts, like,
Right.
where have you noticed growth? Like, have
Yeah,
you
they're not
noticed
getting out of this one.
No. Have you noticed your haircutting, like, technical ability has increased? Like, whatever. Like, have you got more clients? Like, something. Give me something. And then, so if you're very like metric data driven salon, that's where I would next dive into all your KPIs, your retentions, and all that stuff to get that stuff out of the way. Also, you want to make sure that you have time for it, but also that's not where most people's brains are.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not into the numbers and stuff. And so if you can sort of make that quick and easy, but it's important to you, then I would go ahead and do that. I don't know if that sentence made sense, but
Yeah, I
I
got it.
feel like people know what
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. And then
Know your audience. Like
from
if
there,
they're
I
not
would
there, then
figure out
go through quickly.
exactly. And so from there, I would figure out what's Like, what's next? Like, do you have any negative stuff? Maybe you need to get that out of the way. And by negative, it could be like, hey, you cut it close with being on time, or
Mhm.
something, like just sort of stuff you need to
Yep.
clean up. If there's anything that's too crazy, we're not waiting to have a meeting.
Oh,
So
yeah.
generally there's not a ton of like bad stuff.
There
So like,
shouldn't be a big list because you should
yeah,
have
no.
already been hitting that.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's
if there's
to me, friendly reminders, like I said, some constructive criticism, things that don't need to go to the general public. It's individual to you. This is where you need to work on.
Yeah, it could be like a dress code
Mhm.
issue where you're like, hey, you got a little relaxed here with this or whatever. And then from there, we move into like goals and things like that. I don't have our actual structure in front of me. It's behind what I'm looking at on my screen. So it's really like looking at last year, did they meet their expectation for goals? And I mean theirs. I want to know theirs. I have
Mhm.
what they did. I know
Mhm.
where they're at in mine, and I know where we can push them and not. And Jen is a specialist at that. So she'll figure that stuff out. But I want to know what they think.
Right.
And then what are their goals for this year? Because if I don't know their goals, I don't know how to help them. I know what I think. Like Jen and I have sat down and talked about our people individually. Like I know where we think they should be this year. I know who should be working toward a price increase. I know who needs to work on their retention
Mhm.
so that they can get towards a price
Right.
increase. I know who needs more technical ability or some more training or whatever.
Right.
We have a younger staff all the way up to people that have been in the industry for what, like 10 years. So
Mhm.
some people need more, some people need to maybe get back into it. Maybe they're at that 8 to 10 year mark and they haven't pushed themselves in a while. Like it just sort of depends on your staff. And so that's kind of where we go from there, from that
Yeah.
intro and that boring sort of metric stuff. We are going to touch on like, so I'll give you an example. When I say boring metric stuff and retail and blah, blah, blah. So we're not like a heavy retail salon. We offer retail, of course, and we do have, links through our website and all that stuff. And we can direct people where they need to go for whatever their problems are. But it would be pointless for me to sit down and go over the retail numbers with
Right.
people because we don't really focus on it.
Mhm.
We will talk about retail in a sort of generic sense, meaning like, hey, you can make money off of retail if that's important to you. If it's
Right.
one of your goals, then let us know and we can dive into it, a strategy for you. So that's what I mean. I just wanted to kind of clear that up. It's not like we completely ignore, retention and booking rates and all that
Right.
stuff.
We have things that we focus on, and those are the ones that we speak to. You could talk about. I mean, most softwares will bring up all type of different metrics, but if that's not one that is part of your mission, like you said, your core values or what you stand for, then why are you even wasting time talking about it?
Exactly. Yeah. What else do you want to talk about? Anything that I missed? I'm sure there's a million things, and we have a whole bunch of new stuff that we're going to try, and I guess we can report back at some
Yeah.
point.
I think one thing is what we do, and I love that our software is capable of this, is I went in and set in goals for everybody for this year based on last year, and it's also based on what I know where they want to be, and
What
they can
goals? Service for people
service sales.
listening.
So this is their
Service.
paycheck, right? How much money do you want to be making by the end of the year? What does that look like? And those will be reevaluated through these one-on-ones to make sure they're still where they want to be. There are certain people on our staff that those are ways that they drive their inspiration. Like they get so excited to hit these, and it's really really important for them. And there's some that I don't even know if they look at it. And again, I don't care which place you're on, but those that part of the software we have really does help people and for Todd and I to look at like, hey, are they hitting these? This is things that they set. This is where they want to be by the end of the year. Are they above? Are they ahead? Are they behind? And then how do we coach them? So that really does help. And it's something they can get to on their phone and they can easily check on their own to self check to make sure that they're on the financial part of where they want to be by the end of the year or each month. So if you have a software that does that, it can be a great tool to keep your staff basically so that they can monitor their goals themselves and it gives them their own accountability. And then I think there's just the check in. Whatever you guys go over in your one on ones or however you do it, I think there's a certain timeline of where you're going to need to either meet back or, like Todd said, it doesn't have to be a meeting. It's a text or an email, or we have another way we communicate with our staff just to check in to make sure everything's like going well. And that may not be with everybody, and that may be with a few certain people, but that check-in becomes really important so that the staff realizes that the goals they set or you set with them, you're going to hold them accountable.
For sure. So a couple quick little pro tips, I guess I'll say, is you want to avoid being vague in these meetings too. Just this is your time where it's a closed door meeting where you can be very specific. So say, for example, you have somebody that is violating your dress code, whatever. I would be specific. Like, how are they violating? I wouldn't just be like, hey, you need to clean up. Like, hey, refer to our dress code or what. I wouldn't do that sort of thing because you're setting them up for confusion because they may have already done that and they misinterpreted something or
Right.
whatever. That stuff is on you. And one of the other things is obviously I feel like it's pretty clear that we're empathetic. Like we want people to feel comfortable and stuff. But sometimes when you go in with that, I need to do this and this and this, and we need to talk about this and this, you're overlooking the person and their feelings. And that's where you can really connect with somebody and you don't have to get all weird family connection with them. But it's like these people want to feel heard too.
Yeah.
As silly as something might sound, like we've had complaints in the past during these meetings where I'm like, that's your complaint. Like I still listen to it. I still appreciate that that is what upsets the person. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to me. I'll be honest. Complaints that I'm like, that's that's all
That's
you
all you
got.
could come up with?
If that's your complaint, good luck. Like you have a great time here. Like that's the biggest concern. But it's important to let people feel like they can talk and communicate with you
Right.
because once that disappears, that's very hard to get that back. Like if somebody feels like you're not approachable because
Right.
of some sort of action, that's not going to go over well for
Right.
you. They're never going to come to you with a problem and things are going to start to stack up.
And I think
The
if
other,
you let them realize it's their time too, then they should start looking forward to these meetings rather than be scared of them, what's gonna
oh
happen.
yeah,
It's like, wow, I get it. For us, we book an hour. I get an hour with my bosses to just shoot the shit, but also realize it's like serious and we're talking business, but like it's my time, like that you don't generally
I
get.
don't know if
So
I would use shoot the shit as a term
okay,
there.
well,
Definitely not. Yeah.
chat and
We've
hang out
we've
and
we've
learn.
tried that approach in the past where it's like you just have a conversation, nothing gets done. So I think I understand what you're saying. Like it's more relaxed. We're
Yes,
definitely more relaxed than I would say the bulk of people out there. But it's because we have the experience, and I would say it's because we have systems in place
right.
for these things. So it doesn't have to be all like that. I just didn't want people to be like, oh, you're just me, like, oh, you're just having a hangout.
There are points in my life where I take things seriously. One-on-ones are part serious and part hangout. Like I want to also like sit down with our staff too and have a few minutes, right? But we
Definitely,
understand that we
definitely.
have to accomplish a lot of stuff in that hour, and it's very important to set them up for success, which sets Hello up for success to get through that stuff. But we want them to come in looking forward to that, like what is going to be my success this year, rather than be afraid. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm sure people listening out there get it too, but I just wanted to point that out.
Make sure they really get it.
So, what was the last thing I was going to say? Oh, it's your fault. So if you're an owner or a manager or whatever, and you have a staff that's doing all sorts of crazy stuff, that's your fault. You're either not enforcing something, not explaining it clearly. Maybe there's no repercussion. Like maybe somebody's constantly late, but you just let them be late. And then what are you going to do? Yell at them in a meeting? Like that's not going to change their
Right.
behavior. So figure out why they're late. Maybe they don't understand that it's important to you. Maybe they're just somebody that runs late. Either way, you have to make it clear that that's not acceptable to you. But also, what have you been doing the whole year
Right.
to let them know? So any bad habits that you've allowed, those are bad habits now that are reinforced. And guess what? That's on you. So I guess the moral of the story would be figure your shit out and lighten up. It doesn't have to be all crazy. And then we always leave the meeting with I want my staff to have something, they need at least one specific action that they're going to be doing or one thing that they're going to be working on. It's not going to be something like, hey, this is your goal. Got it? Okay, good. I want to give them the first steps or even better, I want them to figure out with me and Jen, I want them to figure out what their first step is. And then I want to be able to check in with them within like a month or so, or
Mhm.
however long makes sense, of like, where are we at with this? Because if you just have this meeting and then you carry on and you don't reinforce anything,
It's
or you don't
pointless.
make any change or drive any change, then you really are just wasting your time. At that
Mhm.
point, just meet for sandwiches somewhere and
Yeah. Then it's just smoke and mirrors. You're
have
just
fun.
pretending.
Right. Exactly. Do you have anything else in closing, Jen?
I thought that was great.
All right. There's a million more things we can get to, but I don't feel like it. So, all right. Get on our email list. If you don't want to, that's fine too. And we'll see everyone, I don't know, next week. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.